Welcome to the Business Like a Mother show, where we share real strategy, radical honesty, and the conversations no one else is having. For moms building businesses on their own terms while burning down the patriarchy, one business at a time. Let's jump in. Welcome back to Business Like a Mother. My guest today is someone whose story I could not stop thinking about after we first met a couple of months ago, so I knew immediately I wanted to have her on as a guest. Ebonee Slater did 8 rounds of IVF over 4 years and now has 2 kids under 2 at age 46. And she did all of this while building a multi-million-dollar real estate firm and climbing to an executive role at a Big Four consulting firm. Then she got laid off on maternity leave and let it be the wake-up call she'd been putting off for years. She now runs FounderPay, helping mompreneurs and founders build a business they can reliably bet on. She is here for equity and entrepreneurship, especially for Black moms building wealth without a safety net. And she is completely unapologetic about accumulating massive wealth. We are going to get into more of her story and how you can start paying yourself in your business in our conversation. Welcome, Ebonee, to the show. We were saying right before we started recording, this was a conversation that could probably be like a 3-hour event. Because your story is amazing. We have so much stuff we sync up on. So I'm just excited to dive in. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. So I would love to start with your journey because it's one that I think a lot of listeners may relate to pieces of it. And it's really was, I think, the impetus for where you are now as a mom in business. So backstory, you built a multi-million-dollar real estate firm and I think a lot of people from the outside would be like, oh my gosh, this woman is like killing it, doing amazing things, dominating the Atlanta real estate market. But you also were at the same time going through an IVF journey where you had 8 rounds of IVF and took 4 years. So tell us a little bit about that and what that was like, trying to navigate that while running this real estate career.
Yeah. It started with me actually never wanting kids. And I always say that because I want women to think about what happens when they change their mind, right? Due to circumstances. So I changed my mind at the age of 35 when I met my now husband. So already advanced maternal age, as they say. And my husband and I got pregnant pretty early on, and we lost the baby. And from then, it took us 8 years and 8 rounds of IVF to get to our daughter, blessing. And I was 43 at the time. And so we did one more round of IVF for our second child. And so we had 2 kids under 2 at my age of 46, which was insane. So my journey, I say that to say my journey to motherhood was long and strenuous and expensive and emotionally draining. And so I know that a lot of women are going through that process right now, whether it's IVF, surrogacy, adoption, all the things, because women are having kids later in life. And I will say, shameless plug, we spoke about this on the Portia show, the Fox News Network, here in Atlanta, talking about exactly that, because it's becoming the norm, and I want women to be comfortable about it, and I want them to be excited about it at any age, even 46.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know you said too that the clip that the soundbite from the Portia show, tell us what it was.
Yeah, she asked me how many rounds of IVF did I do, and I said 8. And she said, wow, that's a lot. And I said, yeah, well, I counted, it was 690 shots. And then, it cuts off. And I was like, oh, that's heavy. That's intense. But that was, kind of our journey in fertility. And on the real estate side, it's funny. It was like, I think 2018, 2019, when you heard a lot about this FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early. And I've been all the way into it. And I was like, real estate is going to be what gets me there. And so my husband and I started with purchasing properties. So multifamily, that was like our asset class in the real estate space. And then We got into land development, we built new construction homes, and then we strictly just did land development, LDB process, if anyone understands what that is. And that's how we built our empire. So,
That's incredible.
yeah.
So I know at some point then you were on maternity leave and you were laid off
Mhm.
from what kind of job were you working when you were laid off?
I was actually an executive in Big 4 consulting,
Okay.
making
Okay.
multiple
Okay.
six figures a year.
So you had that going on and your real estate empire. You had 690 shots during
Mhm.
IVF. You get pregnant, you're on maternity leave. Was it your first or your second
My
maternity leave?
first.
Your
Mhm,
first. And then you're
mhm.
laid off from a career that I imagine you had dedicated a large part of your adult life to.
I did, and also during that time, I remember, we were building new construction homes, and I was, like, very pregnant because in real estate, you cannot time the market. There's no
Right.
such thing, and so we got into these houses, and I was not pregnant. Here I was pregnant, like, 7 months in, and, it was, I'm at construction sites with a big belly, so that was funny. But, yeah, I remember I was gonna return to work, and here's the funny thing, and I will say this to the ladies, be careful what you ask for. The universe is always going to conspire and to make happen what you want to happen, right? And so from I would say from 2020 maybe, I put on my vision board every year that I was going to leave corporate and be my own boss, do my own thing, all the things that we tell ourselves. And I just
Mhm.
kept getting cold feet. I kept getting cold feet. Even when I left my first job for this job that where I got laid off, um, I still took another job. I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I move over instead of just moving out? And so sure enough, the universe responded to my wishes of years of wishing. And when I went to return to work, they told me on the call that I thought we were, meeting to talk about my return, they were like, "Yeah, there's no return." And so that was a bomb that was dropped. I was here with a newborn, and I remember the only thing I said to them was, "Can you at least keep my benefits?" Like, I just remember, like, of
Mhm.
all the things that went through my mind was, like, a newborn, and I was like, "Can you at least, keep my benefits intact?" And I was just like, "Oh, Evan, I cannot believe you're groveling like this." Like, that was my wake-up call to have, that much power, to give someone that much power over my livelihood and my security and my confidence and everything, and now my family. I just said, "I will never be in this position again." And that was just like the fire that just kinda lit everything that came with Mompreneur Hub, actually.
Yeah, well, and you hit there's so much in there to unpack. I know before we were recording, we were talking a little bit, and you said that for a while you thought you were like kind of the exception of a mom who was laid off during maternity leave, and then as you started talking to more moms, you were like, actually, no, this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and also, in the US, like people are dependent on jobs and employers for benefits, which is
Sad.
that other countries, it's not that way
No.
necessarily. So you work with a lot of, moms who are shifting,
Mhm,
looking to potentially leave corporate or
mhm.
have potentially lost a job, um, and are looking to do their own thing. What do you say to somebody else who's like, "Okay, where do I start? What's the first thing? How do I navigate this?"
So if someone came to me and said, "Ebony, what's your advice?" Um, I would say you have to start, like, with a very strong foundation, and I say this because I did burn out, right? I was in the
Mm.
hospital, um, and, nearly lost my life for the second time. First time doing childbirth, but second time was a few months postpartum because I did not have that grounding, right? Like, you need, like it's almost like if you picture yourself as, like, a tree that's, like, standing, the
Mhm,
roots go deep, right? And the roots for
mhm.
us is, like, our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, and all those things. And so I would say, like, have, like, your routines, down. Like, when you get down, what do you do? What affirmations are you telling yourself? Do you journal? Do you listen to music? Like, find the thing that's gonna keep you from spiraling before you even get, too far down into the trenches of your business. That is what I would now tell women, to be honest.
Well, and I love that because it also goes back to your story where you learn the hard way, and I think so many of us do. That I know
Mhm.
you noted at some point that you kind of launched your business in, chaos, credit cards, and crying in the nursery.
Mhm.
And it's the stuff that we don't talk enough about. I think sometimes we tend to see I talk a lot about how we're looking at people who are on chapter 20 of their journey,
Yes.
and you might be on chapter 2. And so we're comparing ourselves to somebody that has, been maybe doing a little bit longer, and that breeds a lot of, I think, lack of confidence and imposter syndrome, and it stops strong, capable, smart moms before they even get started.
Yes,
And
and
I think
yes.
it's so important to talk about this messy beginning, middle, it's even once we kind of have things figured out, there is always a sick kid or
Mhm.
or an aging parent or something, technology shifts and changes and we have to adapt, which I think is a superpower of moms in business. We have these amazing abilities to adapt and to stay calm amongst chaos. But uh I love that you shared that because it sounds like looking back, you would say maybe you weren't as rooted as you needed to be, and that caused this pretty quick burnout.
Yes. And let me tell you, this is something I think is important for us to talk about too. I'm going to say two things to what you just said. My therapist actually was the one who told me, Ebony, you need to get off the stage. Who are you performing for? And that's when I was like, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? And she was right. She was right. Like everything I did was so performative. And it really came from
Mm.
years in corporate America, right? Like we have our KPIs and our metrics, and it's how you move up and it's how you're promoted. And it's, it's climb the ladder and all the things. So we're trained. Like we don't realize,
Mhm.
but we're like trained little monkeys to do all the things to, meet the metrics and, move up the ladder. And so I brought that in, when I left corporate, 'cause I had no else to rack. So I'm on social media, I'm doing all these things. And then I realized like I am creating a huge problem because just like you said, people don't see the messy. Like they see it from A and then to B, but they do not see all the iterations in between. And when you're looking at social media, which is one thing I had to cut out, I had to get off social media like altogether.
Ooh,
And one big reason
we're gonna
was
come back to that.
yeah, was that. It was like
Yeah.
all these moms with their perfect hair and their makeup and their little cute little kids, and I was like, "Ooh, stop it."
Yeah.
Like, we are creating this because we know as moms that is not like, that's not real. Like, it's not real. And if it is real, it's real for 5 seconds, and it took a lot out of you to get there. So moms, like,
Mhm.
just stop it. Like, just stop it because we are our worst enemy. We don't have to perform, right? I think it takes a lot of work to not seek that external validation, a lot of work, and I'm working on it every single day. But once I stopped performing and I challenge myself every time, like, Ebony, are you on the stage? Or are you really doing this because it matters, right? And it needs to happen to support your mompreneurs. And so, asking myself that question all the time, that has made a huge difference. And I just challenge, other women to do the same. Like, honestly, we have to stop performing
Yeah.
and do the real work.
Yeah. So you also, since we first connected a while ago, you have launched this awesome new offer and you're really, really, I think, tackling a conversation that also is far too common that, we go out, we start these businesses, and then we're not paying ourselves because we're not necessarily looking at the numbers. We're afraid to like take a paycheck. We're paying everybody else first. We're not looking at our expenses. But you have created a paid framework. So PAID. And I think specifically you've said because you see so many moms in business building businesses that aren't paying them. So where did this come from that made you think this is really what moms in business need?
So two things. One, I burnt out. All the events and all the offers that I did last year. I mean, I launched a workshop, a charity ball, a charity ball, the garden party, school community. I mean, all these things I launched last year. And it definitely was transformative and it definitely moved the needle for women. And then it definitely wound me up in the hospital. And so after the charity ball event happened in January, I was just like, okay, I mean, we have to first take a maternity leave. I had not
Mhm.
taken a maternity leave. My son was almost 1.
Oh my
So,
god.
hence the burnout too. Was like, I
Okay.
never like, I mean, I gave birth
Mhm.
and went straight back to, like, my construction site, like,
Yeah.
days later.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing, but part of why I did not take maternity leave was because I was like, "Well, how would I get paid?" Right? When you have a
Yeah.
corporate job, you take maternity leave
Yeah.
and you're still getting a paycheck, right?
Yep. Mhm.
And for, different women, it's different time period, but still, you know that you're gonna get a paycheck. And I'd never felt that, right? And then I was like, "Oh my God, well, where's my paycheck? Like, where's the money gonna come from? Like, I have to hustle harder and harder, harder." So that was one thing. And so I said, if I could really do one little thing, like a little thing, not a grand thing like a charity ball and all the things, just like one little thing that would really unlock wealth for women, what would it be? And I said to pay ourselves. And where did it come from? Me, right? And so all the things that I created last year were all things that I needed. Community. I needed a reset. I needed, all these things. I needed a charity ball. I needed a celebration. That was a charity ball. And so when I distilled it all the way down, now I want to be clear on what pay yourself does not look like, okay? Because people are like,
Yeah.
okay, pay yourself. What does that mean, right? So, one, it does not look like you're swiping your business card for personal expenses, right?
Yeah. That is
It does
such a
not
good
look like
distinction to make right off the top.
I've done it.
Yes.
I've done it,
Yes.
right? It does not
Mhm.
mean that you Zelle transfer from your business account to your personal account here and there to cover little expenses here and there. That it means that you actually have a business account. Many women don't even have a business account set up. And you don't, and and I won't go down the rabbit hole with this, but it creates a compounding thing. You don't realize how quickly you hit a ceiling when you do not have a business banker, right?
Yeah.
To introduce you to people, to make connections, to reduce your banking fees so that you're not paying so many banking fees for these bank accounts that you have open on your business side, right? To invite you to different events, to, introduce you to really good financial planners. You know what I mean? Like it's like your business, even with working capital. Like if you don't have working capital, you don't know how to create your statements. You can't go to a business bank and get a line of credit, right? So how are
Right.
you building up your reserves for working capital so that you can, make hiring decisions, so that you can scale and expand? So anyway, when I thought about it, I'm like, there's such a compounding issue here that no wonder that 90% of women owned businesses fail within the first year, right? Because of this one
Yeah.
little thing. Right? And so the second thing is I was laughing at myself because I'm like, I've become, my corporate employer where I was always like fighting for a raise and fighting for a bigger bonus and fighting for my break, and all these
Yeah.
things. And, and it's like, oh, I've become that person. Like I'm using my talent and I'm not being compensated for it. Like how bizarre is that? Like how crazy is that? And so that's really, really where it came out of. And when I started having conversations with women, they were like, oh, yeah. It's like we never even thought about it. Like me, I never thought about it. I never thought about writing myself a paycheck as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Never even crossed my mind, right? And then I realized that it is such a big limiting trap for us. And so
Mhm.
that's really where it was born.
Okay.
Very long
Okay.
answer. You can cut that
No,
down
no,
and
no, but
edit.
it's the real story, and
Yes.
that's what people need to hear, not because, like, I saw a gap in the marketplace and I realized or you know what I mean? Or like,
Mm-mm.
AI told me this was a gap. It's like, this was your lived experience,
Yes.
and that's no one can argue with that, and I appreciate you sharing that because you're right. So many people they they don't teach you this in school necessarily,
No.
I mean, and maybe business school. I don't know. I didn't go to business school, but I think a lot of moms who start businesses are coming out of a completely different career. They're working for someone else who is handling all of this. And then it's like,
Mhm.
where do I start? And then we just, get going. And then we're like, we just have to make money. We have to make money. We have to make money. And we forget about the rest of it. And we
Yeah.
forget about
And you know what?
until it's tax time and then we're screwed often than
Okay, I
not,
was gonna say 2 things you just hit on right there was, 1, that sales cycle panic, right?
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh my god, there are bills due. I have to go and find a client. Any client. I'll take any of you. Just go, go,
Yes.
go. Be my client. Pay me a
If you
dollar."
have a pulse, you can work for me, even if I were, yeah, even if you're
That
terrible and we're not a fit.
Thank you. And then you have this hell client, right? And you're like, "It
Mhm.
wasn't worth it. That $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it wasn't worth it." Second, it's the tax. Many women don't realize that the IRS will absolutely come after you if you're filing these business tax returns and you don't show that you've paid yourself. It is
Yeah.
a tax. It's a flag. It's a huge flag. And
Yeah.
so with this service, like very simple thing, I'm like, you know what? We can kind of combat a lot of these downfalls or pits or, whatever you want to call it
Yeah.
that we run
Yeah.
into as business owners. So,
So you have this framework that you've
mhm,
created, paid,
mhm,
and you've basically broken it down to four different moves, one paycheck, and then it's a repeatable system too that you do every month, which is what I appreciate.
yes.
And so what does the P stand for? Talk us through this real quick.
That is your pay floor. Like, how do we determine how much you pay yourself every month
Mhm.
that's comfortable for your personal life and for your business? And we have what I call, and it's probably like, could be much more sophisticated name, but it's the two account smoothing system because as entrepreneurs, many of us don't have consistent, predictable pay, right? And that's
Mhm.
one reason why people don't pay themselves. They're like, well, I don't know how much I'm going to make this month. That's totally
Yeah.
fine, right? We take an average and we say, this is your floor that you're going to pay yourself every month, no matter what. And if you make more money, great, that goes into reserves. If you make less, then you may pull from those reserves, right? But those reserves are always there
Mhm.
building up over time. And then
Okay.
the A is to allocate. So we talked about taxes, then we didn't talk about what reinvesting in your business, how do you plan to hire someone? Like all of that is the A, the allocate. And the
Mhm.
I is the most important thing. When we have our 90-minute session, the I is the action. It's called issue. That is where you actually write yourself a check within our
Okay.
90-minute session. And D is you do it again. Like you said, you can repeat it after a month. You do it again. It is as simple as it sounds. There's no accounting, there's no bookkeeping. We're not building out, balance sheets and P&Ls and all the things because that just gets overwhelming and then we get stuck and we do nothing, right? And so I
Right.
really really tried to make this as simple of a framework as possible. And so that's what we do in the 90 minutes.
So what is this doing this process for yourself? What has it done for you and in your business?
It saved my marriage.
Oof.
It saved my marriage because I was a psychopath. I became a psychopath. Just the ups and downs and the pressure of the unpredictability and the unknowing, and then me putting so much pressure on my husband. And, you know, it saved my marriage.
Mm.
It saved my
That's the
marriage.
that's the sound clip for this, by the way. I became a psychopath.
I was a psychopath. I was a psychopath.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, I mean, you just, like, unlocked like, walked through another door, which, that's what I love about these interviews. You never know exactly where they're gonna go, which keeps it real and
Yeah.
fun. The challenges it can create in relationships,
Mhm.
is real, is
Mhm.
absolutely real. So, when you say it saved your marriage, was it do you now have, like, uh times where you are checking in with your husband and like or does he know like this is the paycheck I wrote myself this month? Does it go into like I'm curious if you're willing to share more about like what does that look like for you in your marriage?
So
This
I love
paycheck
this.
and that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So here's the funny thing. When I created this offer, my husband was my first client and he didn't know it. So my husband is also an entrepreneur. So he
Yeah.
basically manages our real estate rental portfolio full time.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I'm going to see if this works because I target entrepreneurs, but this is a framework for every entrepreneur, right? That's not
Sure.
paying themselves.
Yeah.
Let's put it
Yeah.
out there. And so I was like, hey, I have this new offer. Can you help me, kind of fine tune it and everything? And so I took him through the framework first. And he's like, oh, wow. And he's actually giving feedback about it and everything. And so then the next month, I was like, okay, well, you're my client. So let's do this again. And he's like, yeah, definitely. And so it took the pressure off for him to
Mm.
know how much, where's it coming from? Because of course in rental business, we have 20 doors, some
Mhm.
vacant, some not. Sometimes they aren't vacant, but they're not paying. You have all these ebbs and flows. And so
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
not the same amount every month, right? And so just by getting out of that volatility and having like that floor and like that one thing being predictable, it relaxed the both of us, like, just a
Yeah.
ton, especially with 2 kids and everything, like, because we were always just in this, again, like, this cell fire. And I
Yeah.
noticed, like, when there were vacancies, his mood would change. He would just, like, get, like, really aggressive and, like, upset all the time, and I'm like, "You're just stressed." Right?
Yeah.
And we show it in different ways, and, like, so that's why I say it literally saved our marriage. Like, we implemented this without even him even knowing. He just, pretended to be my client, and then we implemented it on my side as well as my Panera Hub, and now when we talk about money, it's not contentious. We do look at, did we make the transfer this month? Yes, we did. I see it in your personal
Mhm.
saving, personal account, savings account, spending account. And so it's just been a game changer. Like I just feel so relaxed talking about it. Like I haven't felt this relaxed talking
Yeah.
about money in like ages. Right. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's changed everything. It's changed everything.
Mm. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing all that. So you are passionate that mothers deserve, economic power, and then, joy and rest. Those are like your three: economic power, joy, and rest. And I love the rest piece because it's the thing that is the first thing to go, like the rest, or we're forced to rest because we burn out and we don't take a long enough paternity leave, or we're not given a maternity leave, and and so we often heard we often learn that the hard way. um and you are really unapologetic about accumulating massive wealth, and so I just love that you put all three of those together, because I think we're often told to kind of pick one. Like we kind of have to pick one and then just be happy for what we have and be grateful for what we have. For you, why do all three need to be in this sentence?
You know what? I have always believed that I could literally have everything. And it's funny because I've never played small with like anything in life. And you and I were talking, kind of before, like as being like a black woman, right? Born into poverty and all the things, like it's like I'm rising through the ashes and trying to rewrite, not just for me, but for now, my kids, right? And so
Mhm.
for me, wealth is the key differentiator between like the minority and the majority, let's just say that. That is the key
Yeah.
differentiator. And second to that is it's in real estate. Like if you go back to the start of the United States, right? Like many people don't realize that not all white people were slave owners. Why? Because they didn't own property. Right? Like, literally, I think it was only like 15-20% of white people actually owned slaves because those were the only people who owned property. So from the
Hmm.
beginning of time, real estate has been like the wealth, kind of thing that unlocked the wealth and really created that chasm, right? And then you come down into generations and it's like, oh, the slave owners just continue to pass down that wealth through generations, and et cetera. Then you have where we are today. And so I think that's why I focus so much on that piece. I'm like, if you guys want to close this income gap, this wealth gap, money gap, whatever you want to call it, it's got to be in land. It has to be in land.
Mm.
And then the second thing to that is land is finite, right? No one is creating more land, right? AI is not going to create more land.
Yeah.
Like there's no more time, there's no more land. We have to jump to it. On the rest side, and I would love to hear your thoughts on what rest means to you because I don't know that I've mastered rest as much as I've mastered turning off all the sensory things, right?
Mm.
Like my house, we don't have a TV in our living room. So my husband grew up
Literally.
in Europe, and that's like a normal thing, right? And so we met in London, so when I lived in London, and I would always go to people's houses, and there was no TV in the sitting room, the living room. There's no TV, and so we decided to have that in our house, right? And so there's no TV in our living room. So like our kids, we don't have this screen time fight, right? There's no TV in the living room. Like you're downstairs, you're just hanging out. And so for me, it's like I have to like get all of the sensory just like out of my everyday life. And so I'm not on social media. Like I don't watch much TV. I listen to podcasts a lot, especially financial
Okay.
podcasts.
Yeah, so rest for me, it's an ongoing exploration, and I think I'll be 45 in July, and so other things are shifting too. Like the type of physical activity I like to do has changed. And, for me, like rest and joy sometimes sync up. I sing in a choir once a week and I love that. And even though I'm there and I'm singing and everything, it still feels restorative because the power of like singing in a community of other women is awesome. And it's like very much part of like my mental health care, my mental health plan. So even though it's still like an active activity, it's like rest, it's still restorative to me. Um, and then I have had to learn, I was diagnosed ADHD when I was 40, and it's been like an ongoing journey. And just recently I felt really called to kind of like go and almost like re-explore it.
Yeah.
Um, and I, have really had to figure out same thing, like what are the things I need to turn off, what are the things I need to opt out of?
Right.
And and also when I feel like I'm done, I'm tapped out, giving myself permission to just stop. Um it's easier said than done sometimes. So, I'm choosing to focus on, like, what I am doing well instead of, like, what I should be doing, because that in and of itself is just counterproductive. So
Agreed. And I think you're doing it perfectly. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, if we're doing it for us and it feels good, then
yeah,
exactly right.
the end.
So, you almost didn't make it, and literally, like, physically, you almost didn't make it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so now here you are, 2 kiddos, a new career, your real estate business, um, writing yourself a paycheck every month, you know, like, f you know, um, I'm not gonna say you're, like, on the other side of it, because
No.
it's, like, still a journey, right?
Yes.
Like, so I don't wanna be like, "No, everything happily ever after," right? And all the bullshit we're led to believe as young girls, like,
Yes.
no, no. But, you're here, you're building this, you're fighting for this, you're also doing it for your kids, for other moms who do hear your story and think there is an option for me here.
Mhm.
Um, so if someone is listening to this show right now, maybe they're exhausted, underpaid by her own business or underappreciated by a current job and starting to wonder like what the fuck am I doing? Right? Like
Sure.
what am I doing? Like what do you want that person to know? Not what should they do, but just what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that literally anything is possible. And the first thing you need to do is tell the universe what you want, not what you don't want, right? Like, I don't want this boss. I hate my boss. I don't like this job. Like be very clear on what you want and trust that the universe will absolutely conspire to make it happen because it
Um,
will. And then be prepared when it happens. All right. Like be prepared to receive your blessing, right? That's what I would say to do.
mm. I think a lot of people are afraid of that,
Yeah.
so that is why we hold ourselves back because not so
Mhm.
much that we don't feel ready, but that we worry about what happens when we get exactly what we want
That.
and we doubt our ability to handle that.
Oh yeah, it'll be like drinking from a fire hose. It's gonna be
Yeah.
like a tree fell on you. But when you get from under the tree, you start looking
Yeah.
at the blue skies and the sunshine. You're like, oh yes, this is it. So I'm kind of still under the tree. I got like an arm from under the tree. And so waiting to see the blue skies. But in the meantime, like maybe I'll say that, like, understand it's a journey. I think that's part of where I burnt out last year was like, oh, I have to do this thing to then get this. Again, that's another corporate mentality. You do X, you get
Mm.
Y. You get X, you do Y. You do X, you get Y. Whereas in entrepreneurship, you can do X 20 times and get an L, right? Like that is real. And so I would say like really it's a process and it is a journey. It is not a 1 + 1 = 2.
100%. 100%. And the last question I like to ask my guests is what does doing business like a mother mean or look like for you right now?
Doing it messy and unapologetically. And just from like a grounded place. So I'm not looking for validations, clicks, likes, comments, and all the things. I'm simply doing it because I just truly believe that women should be paying themselves and paying themselves what they're worth. And that's it. And whether you're paying yourself or you're going to your corporate, your boss saying, pay me what I'm worth. But at the end of the day, like, I truly believe that we should just simply be paying ourselves. And it sounds very simple, but it is that simple, but also very hard. And so, yeah, unapologetic and not looking for validation.
That's a wrap on this episode, and I hope you're walking away with a lot of things to think about. And there is one thing you can actually take 2 minutes and do right away, which is to go take Ebonee's FounderPay gap diagnostic. It's free, it's 5 questions, and it gives you an honest reflection of whether your business currently feels dependable enough to support your life, plus the right next step from there. You can find it at founderpay.co, and I will link it directly in the show notes. And if this episode or previous episode hit something for you, I'd love 2 quick things from you. 1, leave a 5-star review if you haven't already. And 2, send it to a mom who needs to hear it. I know there's someone out there who could benefit from hearing the conversation I just had with Ebonee. And it's my favorite kind of marketing, and it actually works. New episodes every Thursday, so I will see you at the next one.